Hey guys, it's DieHard here. The real DieHard, not the video game DieHard that everybody sees. And I figured I wanted to do one of these just to do it. And I figured this would be a different way of doing stuff so I don't have to go in and get like a still image of, whatever, or like some hot seat thing with billings or whatever. I don't have to do any of that. I can just me to you. And there's a couple of things that I've noticed since I've came back that things didn't change much within the COG community. I'm using quotation fingers there, but I want to start by saying that I started making COG shows on YouTube at the end of 2009. So it's a little over 9 years now, and I'm heading into my 10th year of doing it. No regrets. But prior to YouTube, and all that, because YouTube hasn't been around forever, contrary to popular belief. When I first started, it was like on the Nintendo 64. On the original PlayStation with like WWF Attitude and WWF Warzone. My buddy and I, we would record with this old big boxy thing called a VCR, and this was before HD, so if you had a really good VCR, you'd get 480p. If you had a really nice VCR, otherwise it was 240p and then 360p. But anyway, so we would record that, and I want to say it was Alltech Lansing, maybe. No, it was called a TV tuner card. What it allowed you to do was hook up a coax, like a cable, hook up into it, boom, or else the audio video plugs, and you'd play it back from the VCR, whatever you recorded from your console on the VCR. Play it back into the capture card on your computer, which then you'd go into like Windows Movie Maker and edit. We did that. We overdubbed commentary. We did all that good stuff for a really long time. And I don't physically have them anymore. His mom, we're still best friends. His mom has them, in two big cardboard boxes, kind of like that one, except a lot bigger. A bunch of VHSs, like there's like backyard wrestling stuff in there. Because I was like, when I was, 10 years old and younger, like the Monday Night Wars were a huge thing. I went to school and I was like, oh, did you watch Raw last night? My best friend was like, did you watch Nitro? That was literally, it was like WWF versus WCW at school, like every day. And I had a DX jersey that said "Suck It" on it. It was awesome. And he had a Who's Next shirt, Goldberg, and but yeah, like we became friends because of wrestling. So then, we started doing that stuff. But then when YouTube came along, at this point, he had moved down to Texas with his parents. His dad went and took a job down in Texas. I stayed in Michigan. And when I stayed here, I was like, man, I'm really bored. I don't got nobody to hang out with. I wasn't in a band anymore, so I was like, all right, what can I do? And so I decided to go back to playing wrestling games. And at this time, I was still playing on the PS2, still playing online and stuff. I was a part of CAW. It was called Computer Animated Wrestling, CAW for short. And, I did all right there, like nothing spectacular. I wasn't like undefeated. I did all right, but I was pitted against the best players in the game in a competitive sense. And then the servers got shut down for SVR 07 on the PS2, and I picked up an Xbox 360. The first 360 I had, I modded it. I JTagged it. And I didn't realize at the time I couldn't go online with it, and I went online. And obviously, so my very first gamer tag was not XTCOX DieHard. My first gamer tag was the TCO DieHard. That was my very first gamer tag. I just paid a year subscription to Xbox Live too, damn it. But anyways, so I got 07 on the 360. I also had 09 because 09 had just came out. I got into contact with some other people that were supposed to be 5-star players, the best players in 07, and I was kind of spanking him around the ring. The guy mad, called me PS2 noob, and I was like, oh, whatever. And so from that time on, I was like, you know what? I can do like a league. It wasn't like a full show, it was bits and pieces of matches, but there was match cards, and all that good jazz. And my cigarette went out. But anyway, so there's match cards, and they were recorded and they were uploaded on my old YouTube channel. I think it was Metalheaded 87, maybe Metalhead 87. It was some variation of that, which is funny because that was my old PS2 name before I was DieHard. It was VID_Metalhead. So, but yeah, I did that for quite a while, and things were going really good. Actually, it was a whole year. And then 2010 it came out. I did not like 09 at all. I played online a couple of times. One of my first matches, I got the Choke of Doom done to me, and I was like, oh, that's disappointing. So when 2010 came out, Brick Wall, or DJ Echo, he went out and picked it up. He's like, dude, you should check it out. And I was like, all right. So I got it. Offline, it was amazing. It was great. Online, severe lag, but I learned to work with the lag. And then I started TPP. Because when I was doing the league thing on the Xbox 360 on 07, I still called it CAW. But from 2010, so the end of 2009, it became the Power Plant. And when that happened, like, people just kind of came out of the woodwork, and it kept joining, and we had some really great people in there at times. Like, we had a guy named Bam Gamer 95. He was a really cool kid. I don't know what happened to him. Like, he was good. And then, obviously, at the end of 2010, there was some drama, and it wasn't with anybody else. Actually, mid-2010, my first introduction to TXW. No offense to TXW, but that was my first interaction was with Solus. Met Solus, and he's like, I own TXW. And I was like, oh, well, whatever, I don't care. Well, I tapped him out. And a bunch of the TXW guys went on the video and were like, oh, you used a push mission, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a shit. Anyways, continuing. At the end of 2010, I remember I got to play the early demo of 2011. And I was not a big fan of it. And then I got the game early. I got the game 2 days early from GameStop. I had a guy that worked there. He was store manager. He's like, well, it came in on Friday. He's like, I can't give it to you on Friday. I was like, well, what day can you give it to me? He's like, I met him on Sunday because the game came out on a Tuesday, the Assassin's Creed launch. He gave it to me on Sunday when they were closed. Gave me my copy on Sunday. Said, do not go online. I did not go online. I played it. I was not a big fan. There was many moves that were locked out of the game. Tons and tons of moves. Well, Brian J, I want to say it was like XboxHackPortal.com. Anyways, he started making a move editor. But he needed help to find. I want to say there was like 168,000 values or something like that. It was a lot of values. And basically they were in like these blocks, okay? And you had to go through the blocks, and you had to, like, some of the values would freeze you, some of them were taunts, some of them were, like standing kind of things, like AI things, like when they shake their hands when they're just standing there idle. Some of them were moves, some of them were like running things, all kinds of weird stuff. Turnbuckle climbs. People then got their hands on the hacking tool and started making hack movesets. But I was just trying to find moves, and I found the moves I wanted. Closed fist punches on the ground, also known as the First Blood punches from 2010 and 9. Or just, maybe it was just 2010, I don't know. But anyway, so I found them, I found those values, put them on DieHard. Show was going great. At this point, I had met AC Arthurs. I had met Scott Barnett, but at the time he was not Scott Barnett, he was John Russell's. I met Craig Hazard. I met Craig Hazard and John Russell's in 5-Star Championship Wrestling. It was like this little side project I was doing with Wolfpack Nash, and we were both kind of booking stuff, and I think we had a triple threat or something like that, or maybe I was just recording. I don't. It's on one of my channels. I could probably find it again. But that's when I first met them, and I asked them both. I was like, "Hey, you guys want to come on to my show? I do it more frequently than what this 5-Star Championship Wrestling is going to be doing it." And they both said, "Yeah," and came on board. And then when Arthur's came in, when Andy to Randy came on board, I remember when he was in that first party with me. I didn't have a plan for his character at all. I had no plan at all. He had black knee pads, black kick pads with a white outline on it, black trunks, black taped up wrists and hands, and then black elbow pads, black hair. He was not the raver character that he became later on in TXW. When Arthur's came in, because I didn't have a plan for him, I was at this point in the game, like when I was doing the shows, I was very focused on DieHard. That's what I focused on. I didn't really, I was focusing on people on the show, but I was more focused on me because I was the TPP champion. Didn't want to give it up to nobody. Well, Styles had, from the PS2, gotten a 360, and so we were doing like this feud thing of old friends, and Arthur's had came on board. And Arthur's was in like a whole slew of people. Like, it wasn't just Arthur's. It was a couple other people that came on board, but Arthur's is the one that sticks out because he had the longevity to continue on. But when he came on board, he was in that party with me, and I was like, well, I don't really know what I'm going to do with you right now. And me and Styles were talking about factions. At this time, I had TCO. DieHard had Brick Wall, James Braden, Jordan Moore. Grosser didn't get 2011. Myself, there was a lot of people. So in turn, we changed our storylines. Okay, because Styles had a counter faction called I want to say it was called the Click, which I think that's what it was called because I remember saying it was a stupid name, just stupid. And so we went with it, and he had the Click, and in the Click there was Styles. What we did was we had Brick Wall leave TCO. Brick Wall is the only character to ever leave TCO without getting a TCO beatdown. The only one. So it was Styles, Brick Wall, AC Arthurs. I can't think who the fourth one was. I know that there was a fourth one. Because it wasn't just three. Maybe I'll remember later. I don't know. But anyway, so it was them pitted against TCO, leading up to the DieHard Styles thing. Well, Styles at the time was still in this competitive mindset. We were switching over to Sim. Like, everything was, booked for me to job out to. I was going to lose to Styles, not only at SummerSlam, but also at No Mercy. So he had me lose to Styles at SummerSlam, which Styles was great with. We're continuing our feud. And he just somewhere between that August and October, so within 60 days, his entire mindset changed, and and he went back to like this archaic kind of competitive mindset. So if you were to go back and watch No Mercy, or the Power Plant's No Mercy from 2011, then you would see it come out. Like in the first match, because we did 2 out of 3 falls. The first match was, I think, Falls Count Anywhere, or Hardcore, or something like that. Anyways, he brought out his competitive spirit there. Well, beat the shit out of him, and I beat him. Well, then he won the second match, so we wanted to go to the third one. That's how we booked it. In the third one, it was the last man standing. Originally, the original plan was he was going to win. But then he was saying his X-Factor was going on the fritz. So I was like, all right, well, we'll have DieHard win it. Okay. But then we'll have you re-challenge on 2012. That was the plan. The first pay-per-view, he was going to re-challenge and get the title. He didn't want to do that. He started throwing a bitch fit in the party. And you could hear, like, everybody that was in the party could hear him over the Kinect sensor. He was screaming because he was saying that the first blood punches were hacked. They were hacked in, obviously. I put them in. But he's like, oh, they're unblockable. I was like, dude, they're not unblockable at all. And we had hacked in his paint tools for him, as well as the other ones that we used for other characters. And I just kind of was like, all right, well, What do we do? Well, then he turned off his fucking Xbox. In the middle of the match. Turned it off. He sent me a text message. He said, fuck you, go ahead and beat me. And I was like, okay. Mind you, I did a really good job of editing that. And you can't even tell that he disconnected. Like, you just see, like, a quick, like, if you go, like, frame by frame, you'll see the quick, like, the bar showed up real quick and then it went away. Like, super fast. And so we went on from there. And he disappeared. And then 2012 rolled around. At this time, FAM had their whole thing going down with Too Twisted Mark, and like the whole AWOL thing. That's where this time frame is right here. So Ron Buster reached out to me and asked me to come to FAM, and I told him, I was like, well, I don't really want to go to FAM, but sure, I'll give you guys a hand. I told him, I was like, I'm not really looking to be an active competitor. I was like, I can help give you ideas, but that's all I really want to do. I was like, I have my own show, I do my own thing, yada yada yada. And I just picked up a PS3 too, I think. Right, I picked up a slim PS3. So I had the PS3. I was, I'd made DieHard, but I hadn't done anything with him yet. I didn't even uploaded him onto the game. Well, then they added me into the Skype chat. There's a lot of guys in that FAM Skype chat, And I was like, okay, whatever, And I was busy working as well as doing TPP stuff. So FAM took a back seat. I was like, I was like, you guys don't have that frequent of a show, so whatever, no worries. Well, then it came time, like, I sent Ram Buster a message, or maybe, I think it was Ram, and I sent him a message, like, hey man, I was like, sorry I've been, AFK lately. I was like, I've just been busy, blah, blah, blah. What all do you need for this match to get recorded? And this and that for the episode. He's like, oh, we went through and recorded it for you. And I was like, oh, well, I would have preferred to, I've done it myself. I was like, how did you get the character? He goes, well, we had somebody remake it. And I was like, okay. It gets better. So I was like, I don't even know what the whole plan was. So I was like, can you send me the match card at least? I know what's going on in my segment. So he sends me the run sheet, and I'm reading it. And then they were talking about my gimmick. They're like, oh, you're going to be this wealthy veteran. And I was like, well, okay. And meanwhile, I was in the AOW chat room typing. And I was looking at it. And at the time, FAM was like, oh, we're not a league or a fed or a cause show. We are a clan. That's what they said. And they said they weren't simulation either. But what it was they were pre-booked endings. And so, anyways, I was reading through it, and they were giving me this rundown. I was like, oh, so I'm going to be, so I don't really have to play my matches then. And that's what I was saying in the AOW chat. And Dario was screen capping it. He screen capped it, sent it over to BH and Ron Buster, and I didn't know. And I was just like, oh, so I guess I can just kind of not have to worry about doing my matches for FAM because they're going to do them anyways. That's what happened. So then I went about my business, didn't think anything of it. I go back into the Skype chat a day later, I think. Maybe later that day or a day later. And they're like, oh, DieHard, we got something to tell you. And I was like, oh, okay, great. And BH tries to poke the stick by saying he had a chit-chat with my now ex-wife, Melinda. And I was like, okay, whatever. I was like, what's your point? So we continue. They're like, oh, we made you this custom championship. And I was like, okay. I was like, that's great and all. What's going on? And anyways, he's like, yeah, we're paying $50 US. And I was like, okay. At this point, I kind of knew something was up. I wasn't really sure what it was. And they're like, well, we're going to send you a template of it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, BH sends it. He sends me the screencast. And I'm looking at it. And so I go back into the Skype chat. And I was like, okay, and your point? And they were like, oh, you were going to, they were saying something I was going to try to kill FAM. And I was like, no. I was like, that wasn't what I was going to do. I was like, and then I go in the chat and I was like, but I told Ron Buster beforehand that, I did not want to compete on FAM. I said I would help them with some ideas if they needed them, but that was it. I never said, hey, yeah, I want to wrestle in FAM. So I warned them. I said, if you guys use my character, it doesn't end well. And, what was it? 2.5, 3 months later, they came out with the episode. And so then I skipped to where my segment would have been, and sure enough, the fake DieHard appeared. Got chokeslammed. Straight to hell. And, they gave me the theme song Rage for Daniel Bryan, right? That was the theme song they gave me. And it's funny because it became the greatest of all time, right? Daniel Bryan was the GOAT. So I end up, I made a video called Famafake. And I took parts of that scene, where they were chokeslamming me through the ring. I was like, this is not the real DieHard. And I pulled up my PS3 version. I was like, this is DieHard. If they would have used the right beard, I probably wouldn't have said shit. If they would have used the right kind of attire. No offense to anybody who likes the color orange, but DieHard does not look right in orange at all. It just doesn't happen. And give me just one quick moment here. Texting sideways. Very dangerous. Anyways. So I went ahead and I was like, all right, whatever. Didn't think nothing of it. The year goes through the end of 2012 there. Nothing else really kind of hit off. The show was kind of hit and miss that year. 12 was a really broken game. And then 13 came out. And I had big plans. And things were working out really good. I mean, throughout 12, I had the world's worst Royal Rumble. And there was a lot of issues going into that Royal Rumble that I think a lot of people don't understand. Okay? People got pissed that Monroe didn't win. Because Monroe entered very early in the Rumble. And the original way that we wrote it, Monroe was going to win the Rumble. Well, my buddy Jordan Moore, he had gotten 12, came on board. He's like, hey, man. He's like, if there's one thing that I want to do, I want to have a series of matches with Monroe. He really liked Monroe. He really did. And so I was like, all right. I was like, we'll see what we can do, man. And so we did it. I made it happen. But to make that happen, we had to have Monroe get eliminated out of the Rumble, which will be continued in part 2. So, don't let me forget. Okay. So part 2 will be after this, because I got to go do something. And then I'll do part 2. So we are at the Breakdown Rumble in the beginning of 2012. I'll be back in a little bit.